Hello, and welcome to another Wayland Library 3D printing tutorial. This is part 2 of designing and printing a lithophane lamp. I'm going to assume that you've watched part 1 and you have a 3D printed lithophane, or at least the STL file for one. You will need that going forward. So the design we are going for is the picture in the middle there. As I hinted at in part one, that design will vary a bit depending on the actual shape of your lithophane, the original orientation of your photo. But that is more or less what we're going for, with the light socket coming in from the top and the bulb hanging down. And as I say that, I'm sure you've noticed the un-3D printable items in the image here. And you might be wondering exactly what I used, and I'll go over that right now. And this is the exact light socket that I used. It's an E26 base hanging light cord or light socket. If you want to buy the exact same thing, these are the measurements I'm going to be using in the video. Here's the title. You can buy it on Amazon. But you're also welcome to buy your own. Like, I'm pretty sure this is a fairly standardized design, so you should be able to, go to Home Depot or craft store or whatever and buy your own, and it should more or less match up. You probably just want to double check the measurements. Really, the only thing you want to avoid would be this style because of the knob in the middle. You might remember going back to the image, the light socket actually goes through the roof. So if you have a knob coming out of there, you're going to need to be pretty precise in how you build the lid of your lamp. And that's not something I'm going to be going over in the video. As for the light bulb, I want to stress that it is an LED bulb. It is not an incandescent bulb. Those bulbs kind of emit more heat. They burn a little hotter than LED ones, and the melting point of PLA plastic, which is what we are more than likely using to make these objects, is lower than people think. So if you use an incandescent bulb, you run the risk of melting or deforming, the plastic that is surrounding it. If you're feeling at all lost, just remember you need an A19 LED light bulb with an E26 base and a matching E26 hanging light socket. As I said earlier, you're welcome to use whatever LED bulb or socket you want, but you are going to be responsible for your own measurements. And with all that out of the way, let's hop into Tinkercad and we can start making this thing. First thing to do is to get measurements of the lithophane you have and kind of create a reference object. If you've already 3D printed it, it's just as easy as, measuring that and recreating it in Tinkercad, which I will go over in just a bit. Otherwise, if you have the STL, you can use Tinkercad's import function. Choose a file. There's mine. As you can see, though, it is over Tinkercad's file limit, which is fairly small. If you run into this problem, the next best thing to do, obviously if you're printing from home and you have a slicer, getting measurements from that STL will be pretty easy, but otherwise, best thing to do is download Mesh Mixer, the URL up top here for you, meshmixer.com/download. Download and install. Open it. You'll get this screen. Might look a little different depending on your resolution, but either way, I'm going to click on import. We're going to import our lithophane STL. It's going to think for a bit. All right, there we go. Then what you want to do is go to Analysis, Units / Dimensions, and it will give you all of the measurements in millimeters to kind of recreate this panel in Tinkercad. And however you got your dimensions, let's go ahead and recreate them in Tinkercad now. So we can just drag out a simple box. You can hit R on your keyboard for the ruler tool, or hit the button up here where my cursor is. And for the purpose of this, we'll say it was 125 height. So it was 94 lengthwise, and the Z height was 3.2. And we can use these double-sided arrows here. Let's stand it up. That's how it is going to be inserted. And you can hit D on the keyboard to just snap it up top. And we can leave this off to the side for now. Later on, this will be very handy in making the lithophane insert. I'm gonna get rid of that one in the back there. And now we can move on to making the body of the lamp. I've found a good rule of thumb here, especially for height, is to make it just 5 millimeters taller than your actual lithophane. So as you can see here, I have this example at 130. My lithophane is at 125. Obviously, this will vary depending on what maximum size you assigned your lithophane and if it's vertical, horizontal, or square. But either way, the important thing, this blue object here, I kind of made as a example of the light bulb that I'm using in the lithophane lamp. So if you are using your own, and it's different than the ones I mentioned earlier in this video, you should take measurements of that, make your own reference object. It's really the important thing here is we do not want the bulb to mash and break into the bottom of our lamp when we put the lid over it. So this is at 130. You can see it's got a pretty good elevation here. And if you were at 150, so we can raise it, 20 or 25, still gonna have good elevation, shine through everything. It's not too high up. Even if you were to make it, 15, maybe even 20 millimeters shorter, getting pretty close to the bottom, but should be okay. Really, the danger zone seems to be at 25 or 30. So if you have your lithophane and you are thinking that your height is going to only be 110 or 100, you should not do that. You should elevate it to 120 or 130 anyway, and kind of just live with having an extra solid space at the bottom. Another kind of simple rule of thumb I found for getting the length and width of your lithophane lamp body, just make it 20 or 30 millimeters more than the width of your lithophane. So this is 94, and I made this example piece 125. All those kind of general rules in mind, let's recreate this. So I'll drag out a box. And quickest, easiest thing to do is to just use the ruler tool again. So we'll add 30, 94 plus 30 is 124. Make that a nice square. And our height was 125, so we'll add 5 to that for 130. We can dismiss the ruler. And then we can move on to kind of carving out the chamber and the inserts for the lithophane. Get this out of the way here. And I found a good wall thickness for the body of the lamp is 10 millimeters thick going all around. So easiest way to make that happen and carve out the chamber. So we're going to drag out a whole box object, just kind of the translucent box object there. Bring up the ruler again, and then we can just subtract 20 from each side to give 10 millimeters thick all around. So it is 124 all around, I believe. So we'll just assign both these dimensions to 104. And we can dismiss the ruler. All we need to do now is just drag it all the way up so that it kind of punches through. And we will align this to make sure we get even walls throughout, but first we just want to push this up a little bit so that we actually have a floor on our lamp body here. So I'm just going to hold down the control key on my keyboard and hit the up arrow 4 or 5 times. I believe if you're on Mac, it is the command key. Don't quote me on that though. Either way, once you do both of these things, we can hold down left click on an empty space here. So select both of them. And up here is the align tool. Click on that, and we just want to center align it on both axes. So we'll do here, here. All right, and it's aligned, it's elevated. We've selected both of them. We can go right to the group button here. And as you can see, we have our chamber in the lamp here. Walls are thick enough that the light won't shine completely through, and you can tweak this number a little bit. You could subtract 16 to get 8 millimeters around both ends, or 22 or whatever. Just keep just keep your reference bulb in mind. You want to give this plenty of space, but you don't want the walls to be so thin that the light will just shine completely through. And now we can move on to making the inserts for our lithophane panel. Simplest way to do that is to take our lithophane reference object here. We're going to duplicate it once, which is this button in between the clipboard and trash can. Just put one behind the other for now. And we are going to make or set both of these to whole, since they will kind of be carving out the insert or slats for the lithophane panel. This one in front, all we're going to do is grab one of these kind of black squares on the front or back here. Just pull it out, make it nice and big. Pretty much all this one needs to do is knock out the front and back of one of these sides. And we'll have this one in the back is going to be kind of the insert or slats for the actual panel. We want to add just a little bit of dimension to give the actual lithophane panel some room to slide in. So we're going to select this one, bring up the ruler. We're going to change our left to right dimensions here by +4 so that it has 2 millimeters of space on each side. So 94, 98. And we're going to change the kind of front to back dimension. Just give it 1 millimeter of space. So for me, 3.2 become 4.2. And then we can dismiss the ruler. And let's move the lamp over a little bit on top. Because I found the easiest way to do this is kind of just manually move these up and just kind of eyeball it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to select both of these. And like we did with the whole chamber object, I'm going to hold down Control. And I'm going to tap the up arrow until it goes like that. So we don't want it punching through the top. You just want it resting totally evenly across the top. All right, now we can line everything up and make our insert. So I'm gonna do a selection box to get everything here. Gonna go back to the Align tool. Gonna do a center align. And then I'm going to click on an empty space to kind of just deselect and get rid of the Align tool. And so this object for me kind of moved perfectly into place. So I'm going to hold down Shift, select the lamp body. Important, I don't want to select this one yet, just this one. I'm going to group those together. And so this kind of the side slats for the lithophane panel doesn't need to actually be exact. We can kind of just eyeball it. So depending on how your object is oriented on the plane here, just kind of use the arrow keys to move it into place. I think that's good enough. As you can see, it's got those 2 millimeter knocks on each side. And if you kind of move the arrow keys about too much, just feel free to reselect, realign, and remove that into place. Either way, once you do that, you can select both of these, group them, and now we have the insert for our lithophane panel. One last kind of optional thing you can do. I'm going to ungroup this for just a second. If you want a little kind of bottom insert piece, like you can see this one kind of has it there. You can take the whole insert and hold down Control and tap the down arrow once or twice. Just be sure you elevate this a little bit accordingly. And then you can regroup it, and you can kind of give a little bottom insert for your lithophane panel. Totally optional, kind of a stylistic choice. Either way, we pretty much have the body of our lamp designed and finished. One last thing I'll go over as kind of an optional thing. If you were planning on putting multiple lithophane panels in this lamp, maybe you want two-sided, four-sided, whatever. Very easy, simple trick to go about this for kind of, redoing the insert anyway. is you can take this, you can ungroup it, and as of when you ungroup it, it will select everything. What you can do is hold down Shift, click the lamp body to deselect it. You can group both whole objects so they kind of become a single piece, and then you can duplicate it, move it off to the side, rotate it 90 degrees, and, I'm eyeballing here, but you can then, align it, move it into place, regroup it, and now your lithophane lamp can fit 2 lithophane panels. That about does it for part 2. Expect part 3 in the coming weeks, where I will be going over how to design the lid piece that kind of goes over the top and is also the piece that the light bulb kind of sockets into. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave questions or comments in the comment section. Have a good one.